Hey class, Prof JC here. Welcome to your final podcast of the semester, your final episode of the semester. It has been wonderful to be with you. I hope that your Christmas season is going extremely well. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope that you're in the full swing of the holiday season and it's going exactly the way you want it to. And as I said in the other class, I hope that this is the greatest Christmas that you've ever had, and I hope that every Christmas gets better and better and better. And thank you for choosing Point Loma. Thank you for choosing this class and for your engagement the last several weeks. So here we are, our final podcast, and I want to wrap up by looking at final thoughts on a life of integrity. Final thoughts on a life of integrity. Okay, so I want to dive deeper, and I just want to kind of wrap up kind of what we've talked a little bit about over the last few weeks. And really talk about what it means to live authentically based on the ideas explored in The Courage to be Disliked. Okay. And so here's my recommendation for you. I know we didn't get through that entire book. There's so many things. It was such a busy semester. Keep that book and keep reading it. Keep diving in. Keep going deeper on it. Okay. I'm reading it myself because there's a lot of things that I'm learning from it. I want to encourage you to do the same thing. Okay, the authors draw on what they call Adlerian psychology to highlight essential themes that help individuals achieve a true life of freedom or a life of true freedom. And many of these ideas tie directly into the concept of integrity. So I want to look at some of those concepts right now as we kind of wrap up our time together today with this podcast. So here's a concept that we looked at: freedom from the past, if we're going to live a life of integrity. The first thing that we explored is freedom from the past. Integrity requires us to release the grip of the past experiences or traumas that traumas can have on our present selves. That's a really powerful idea that the book gives to us, is that that yesterday didn't happen. Okay, 6 years ago didn't happen. 7 years ago it didn't happen. I've shared with you in the podcast, I would not go so far to say that, and I would not tell you that you need to remove all of your past and all the choices and all that stuff, right? But if we live there, and see, that's the problem. And I see people do it all the time. Well, the reason why I can't do this in my life is because if you only knew what happened 6 years ago or 16 years ago or 20 years ago, you've got to let that go, right? To live authentically. And I want to make sure that I spend time giving you the definition, defining integrity. Okay, so this is important as well. Integrity is more than just an abstract concept, and we talked about this in the class. It is about having the courage to be your authentic self every day, no matter where you are or who you are with. This principle at its core is about living truthfully without the need for validation and or approval, and that's where the courage to be disliked comes from. It means that I get to be who I am authentically. You get to be who you are authentically, and you don't have to care what other people think. Okay, you can live that way. And here's what I found in my own life: the people that are the most respected, the people that often launch into some of the greatest success of our time, are people that don't really care what other people think about them. They are so self-reliant. They are so independent on how they think, right? Again, most people have thought for years that integrity is this, that person's a person of integrity. They're a good person, okay? Integrity is it has nothing to do with that. And I think I've said that in the class before. Some of the people that I have known in my life that have the most integrity are not the nicest people. They're not the people you're going to want to invite to your next dinner party. They're not the person you're going to want to be in a relationship with. It's not the person that you're going to want to marry. It's not the person, right? But they just don't care what other people think about them. They are authentic to who they are. They are living with that's integrity. Okay. So again, it's that living with courage. That courage to be authentic no matter who you're with every single day. It's about being consistent, okay? This principle at its core is about living truthfully without the need for validation or approval. It is about being consistent in thought, word, and deed, and aligning your actions with your values every single day consistently, right? So where integrity comes into place if you say you're something and you're not, Okay, that is a person with a lack of integrity, and I promise you, that is a person who's probably not going to go very far in life. Okay, uh, we're part of a Christian school, a faith-based university. All of us have heard that term hypocrite. The reason why that when you and I meet a hypocrite, why it annoys us so much and why it hurts in some ways is because this is a person who has said that this is who I am, and yet we find out that this is how they're living. Okay, that's a person who's not living an integrated life. And just based on experience, what I found is you just can't go far in life if you're not living an integrated life. So if we say this thing about ourselves over here, it means we have to be living it over here. That's what a life of integrity is. So whatever that means for you. Okay, if you're a person in the class, you're not faith-based. You don't have to be faith-based to have integrity. Okay, it's one of the biggest myths when I hear people who aren't Christians or not faith-based don't have integrity. That's not true at all. Sometimes people who are non-faith-based have some of the most integrity. I used the example in this class about my friend who was an atheist. Incredible amount of integrity. Okay, having the courage to be authentically who you are. So part of understanding that and living with that is we have to have freedom from the past. Okay. The courage to be authentic means recognizing our past does not limit our ability to live fully in the present. By taking control of how we interpret our experiences, we gain the power to live with integrity, free from the constraints of past mistakes or regrets. The past is in the past. All you have is right now, this moment. Who are you this moment? And then live that. Okay. In my last class, one of the things that we talked about was, I shared with him, I was listening to a podcast recently where it was talking about successful men and successful women. And if you really look at what makes a really successful man, a really successful woman, it's a person who knows what they want in life, and then they have the courage to go after it. They know what they want, and they have the courage to go after it. Now you think, well, that sounds trite. That sounds small. That's how, but think about this. Okay. How many people do you know really know what they want? Number one. And then once they do know, number two, have the courage to go after it. Very few people, I guarantee you, that probably live this way. It's a very hard way to live. Okay. That's integrity though. That's a life of integrity. It's having that courage to go after, and you've got to let the past regrets and mistakes, you've got to leave them behind. Separation of tasks. Another key idea from the courage, to be disliked is separation of tasks. This concept invites us to draw a line between the responsibilities that belong to us and those that belong to others. When we focus on our own tasks and respect the autonomy of others, we free ourselves from the emotional burden of seeking approval. This is one of the most important things we can talk about in life, right? This is the thing that holds most of us back from truly living lives of integrity. We care so much about what other people think about us. We're always trying to get approval, needy, right? I heard somebody else say, I think it was a rabbi that I was listening to the other day, and he talked about approaching the world. Most people approach the world from a position of neediness, but what if you could approach the world from a position of neededness? Okay? So I'm not needy. I don't need your approval. I don't need what you got. I'm self-reliant, okay? But yet I approach the world with this idea that I am needed in this world, okay? Or maybe you asked yourself the question, how am I needed today in the world? That's a whole different way of showing up to your job, to your work, to the people around you, to the relationships around you. When you show up like that and you say, how am I needed today versus what can I take from other people today? Am I needing this? I need approval. I need people to tell me that they like me. I need people to, right? The two different ways of approaching the world. But that's what this is talking about. The courage to be disliked means you don't need the approval of other people. That's life. That's living with integrity. You know who you are, and you have the courage to be that. And it doesn't matter what other people say about you. Now, I'm not saying that you got to go out there and be rude and be you're just not going to be successful in life because the world doesn't work like that. But the people, and you know them, you've met them, right? The people who are needy always have a sense of need for approval. These are people you try to get away from. You don't want to be around them too much, right? They exhaust you, right? They're always needing. So I don't want you to be that person, okay? When we focus on our own tasks and respect the autonomy of others. We free ourselves from the emotional burden of seeking approval. In business and leadership, this principle is invaluable. It allows us to make decisions that align with our values without being weighed down by the expectations of others. It is an essential part of living authentically and maintaining integrity, as we can then prioritize our own goals without feeling the need to constantly please other people. Okay, we got to get away from that. In our interpersonal relationships, Adlerian psychology, okay, emphasizes that true happiness is found through contributing to others and maintaining meaningful relationships. In an authentic life, integrity means building relationships that are based on mutual respect and equality, not hierarchical control. When we approach others as equals, rather than seeking to dominate or be dominated, we foster trust, respect, and true connection. Integrity in our relationships means showing up authentically, regardless of whether others approve or not. And here's the deal: when you show up as who you are, the right people are going to come around you. Right? If you're approaching life from a neediness perspective, then you're going to be whatever people you think people want. You're going to be like a chameleon. You're going to change for whatever room you're in, but you're never really going to have true friendships. When you figure out that I can just be who I am, the right opportunities are going to come to you, the authentic you. The right people are going to come to you, the authentic you. Okay, so that's really important. You have to show up authentically. The pursuit of meaning. Another important element of living with integrity is the pursuit of meaning. According to Adler, life's meaning is not something that we find externally, but something we create. It's easy to fall into the trap of waiting for life's meaning to be handed to us, but integrity requires that we take proactive steps to define our purpose, to embrace what feels true to us, and live in alignment with that purpose. This is this is about setting goals that are deeply personal and intrinsic, focusing on contribution rather than external accolades. And that's the thing. Okay. If you take anything from this class, living with integrity, it means I don't need the approval of others. I get to live authentically who I am. Right. So now I'm focused on contribution. How do I give back to the world? How do I use my talents and gifts and the things that God has given to me to give to the world rather than just trying to take and have a bunch of people tell me how good I am all the time, right? That's not what we want. It's focusing on contribution over accolades. Contribution over accolades. Approaching the world instead of being needy, being needed. Okay? I'm not going to be needy. I'm going to be need-ed. Okay? This idea ties directly into what we've been discussing. The courage to live authentically, even when it means facing disapproval. The courage to be disliked isn't just about tolerating rejection. It's about having the strength to choose your own values over the fleeting desire to please everyone. It's everything we keep talking about. Living with integrity means staying true to yourself, even if others may not always understand or approve. In a world that often pressures us to conform, it takes immense strength to reject the need for universal acceptance and to choose authenticity instead. Now, again, I'm not saying go be, rude to other people. I'm not saying if you're a rude person, well, I just get to go say whatever I want to whoever I want. Look, you're not going to be successful that way in life, I promise you, right? Because the world works in certain ways. We are social animals, right? We're social beings. I shouldn't say animals. We're social beings. And because we're social beings, we interact with each other in certain ways, and there's certain rules, and that's why studying psychology is really important. And some of these other things that we can study, and economics, and how the world works, and politics, and all these kind of things, and politics within organizations, all this stuff's important. You've got to know how to act with other people, but inside of that, to be authentically who you are, okay, and still treat people with respect. Finally, Adlerian psychology teaches us that true happiness comes from contributing to the greater good. When we live authentically and contribute to our communities, we feel a sense of belonging and fulfillment. Happiness isn't something we chase. It's a byproduct of living with integrity and striving to make a positive impact. Living authentically isn't just about personal growth. It's about creating a ripple effect that benefits others as well. See, that's the thing. You and I are going to have much more success in helping the greater good. And if there's one thing I know about Point Loma students, it's that people come to these programs because they want to figure out, how do I make better use of my talents so I can impact the world around me, whatever that looks like. whether you're in biotech or you're a nonprofit or a for-profit or private equity or, whatever it is, investments, whatever it is that you're doing, most of our students want to make some kind of a bigger impact. Okay. And so that's what this is about. But part of that starts with you. It's living authentically, not needing approval, focusing on contribution versus taking. Okay. How do I give versus how do I take and show up to the world that way? As we wrap up, I want to reflect on why integrity is essential for success in both business and leadership. Integrity is the foundation of trust, and trust is the cornerstone of any successful organization or leadership endeavor. Without integrity, there is no authenticity. And without authenticity, there can be no true connection. You've all had that before. Okay, you've had a leader or you've had a teacher, or you've had someone in your life who has not been authentic, and you can tell that, right? We all can tell the person who's authentic and the person who's not authentic. And there's something about that person when they're not authentic. You look at them and say, there's something about that person I just don't quite trust. But the person who's totally authentic, even if you don't like them, you can say, there they are. I know who they are, right? 100% fully. I know who they are. I know they can show up, and I don't have to worry about who they're going to show up. They show up that same way every single day. I may not like them, but I can at least trust their presence in my life because it's always going to be the same thing. It's consistent. They're not guessing. They're not melding to different rooms and different people and trying to become, right? They're just living authentically to who they are. Okay. A leader who embodies integrity inspires confidence and loyalty, which leads to greater success in the long run. In business, integrity ensures that decisions are made based on values rather than convenience, creating a company culture that thrives on trust and transparency. So here are 3 calls to action. Okay. Number 1 is this: commit to living authentically. Okay. This means making conscious decisions every day to act in alignment with your values, even when it's difficult. So that's number 1. Number 2, start defining your own meaning. Don't wait for life to give you answers. Take responsibilities for shaping your purpose and your goals. And number 3, build relationships based on respect. Strive for connections that are based on mutual equality. And one of the things I talk about, and we've talked about in the class, mutual benefit. I guess I talked about that in another class actually, but mutual benefit and contribute to the greater good. By embracing integrity, we empower ourselves to live authentic lives and create positive change in the world around us. So here's what I want to ask you to do today. Okay. I want you to look back at something we talked about in the podcast today, where we talked about the courage to be disliked. And I know we couldn't get through the whole book, but what is the greatest lesson that you've taken away from the book, The Courage to be Disliked? And how will you use those lessons to help you as you move forward in life and leadership? Okay. Well, what's the greatest lesson that you've taken away? And if you haven't, then you haven't. You can admit that as well. You say, I didn't like the book. I didn't like anything about it. And I get it. Okay. I understand it. But I would prefer if you found something of value from it. And then how are you going to use that as you go forward and live with integrity in life and business? I want to say again, thank you for being a part of this class. Thank you for being a part of Point Loma. I've enjoyed reading your responses, reading your answers. Some of you, I shared this in the other class as well. Some of you have really brought me into your lives, and I appreciate you've trusted me with, personal information, and I appreciate that. And as I said at the beginning, this class is like Las Vegas. What happens here stays here, and I'm never going to read your stuff, or it's not going to go anywhere. But I appreciate the honesty that several of you have brought to this class. And to your own responses. Again, I hope that this is a wonderful Christmas season for each of you as we wrap up. Remember, next week we still have our final assignment to do. It's a written assignment, and I look forward to reading your responses on that. Take care. Normally at this point, I say I'll see you in the next episode, but I can't say that. This is our final one for the class, but I'll see you here, there, or on the other side. And I look forward to hearing from many of you, and I hope that your lives are filled with great leadership, great choices, great business decision as you live powerful lives of integrity. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Hope you have a happy, joyful Christmas season. Take care.